So we're just going to go ahead and start the podcast right here. We're in the middle of talking about the story I shared in the last episode about snakes. My guest today is Preston Bennett. He's well, hold on. I got to finish this story first, and then I'll give you the introduction. But I think the reason I don't like snakes and lizards is because there's no, like, emotion to read, right? When you look at, like, a dog, when you look at a dog, there's, like, these indications of whether or not it likes you. A cat, maybe not so much. I mean, to a certain degree, but like the lizard, it's like it looks the way it looks, and then it's biting you. Yes. Like there's no like build up really, unless it's like a rattler or something. I think that's the reason that they make me uncomfortable, and I bet there's plenty of literature on there that would agree with me. I don't like. It seems pretty reasonable take. But anyway, again, I'm here with Preston Bennett, one of the most savage dudes in our gym. And I was just telling him this when he walked through the door, and we're like 2 beers deep right now, so it's it's gonna be a loose episode. Loose and fast. But being one of probably, dude, you're up there, man, as far as like tough roles, and that's kind of like unknown. I don't know if you realize that people talk. Really?
I don't.
Oh, dude, that's the reputation of the gym. Like you're that guy. Like, how do you do against Preston? Like that's a barometer for people to test where their jujitsu's at.
I love that.
Oh, I'm happy that you didn't know that, because like, dude, here you go. Here's some love, because that's truly how people feel.
I hate rolling against you.
But with that said, for some reason, I just have this sense that this episode is going to be the softest, most like sensitive episode I'm going to have recorded. And this is episode 20.
Big 20.
20. I hope I'm right about that. I'm pretty sure I just edited the last one. I'm pretty sure Nate's was 19. So yeah, 20, which is kind of, good little benchmark.
I like it.
Episode 20, dude. You are episode 20.
Full stride.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But no, so like, dude, I feel like first of all, you're someone who can't be ignored, because you walk into a room.
Yeah.
You're just kind of
I'm
that
a little
guy.
loud.
You're a little loud.
I'm a little loud.
You're really extroverted.
Yeah.
You love on people. You're friends with people who don't even know you.
Yeah. Well, it's like I only go to places that I really enjoy, I find.
Sure.
Right? And jiu-jitsu is something that I have found, and I'm like unwilling to like corrupt.
Dude, can I admit something to you?
Yes.
When I first met you, I was like, there's no way that is who that guy is.
I love it.
And now it's like 3 years later, and I'm like, holy shit. That's exactly who he is, because nobody could keep it up for as long
fucking long, right?
For that long,
Bro.
dude. Like the conversations you have, the stuff you like to talk about, the way you speak, like how much you're loving on other people and stuff. I was telling this to Sam like a few months ago. Like, dude, I didn't think it was real. Like, I did not think it was real. And then the closer I got to him, I was like, dude, I realized that like, oh, that's just scratching the surface, dude. That's Preston being shy. Like, once you get to know the guy.
I gotta keep it at arm's length. It's extreme, man. Trust me, it's hard out here.
Oh, dude, but yeah. So yeah, that's who our guest is today, dude. Savage killer, but like sweet spiritual guy who I have grown to absolutely just love and adore. Adore. Oh, I love that. Oh, you're all good.
Yeah.
Like, adore is kind of the word I would use, oddly enough, which I've never said about another man before.
I know. I've never heard another man say he adores me, but you know what? Abraham's bosom.
Okay. But anyway, so we'll get into the podcast episode. I have a couple things I wanted to talk to you about. And actually, a couple of the things were kind of kicked off in my brain by some text messages that you had sent me. And I actually, before you got here, I went back through, because I knew there was a couple things that we talked about that I thought would be beneficial to talk about in the podcast. And the reason I say that is because on Saturday I went to like this men's retreat, and it was run by Greg Anderson over at Electric North Jiu-Jitsu. Good friend of mine, worked with him for a number of years in the police department. And he was like, he texted me one day, he's like, dude, I know the answer is love. And I was like, dude, how stoned are you right now? And he was, like, that's like your first inclination. But dude, I saw this journey with this guy where he and I started off in cop work, where it was like, And he was an Army Ranger, so he's done some shit kind of a thing.
Elite. Yeah. 1%er, I call him.
And so it was always like he and I would talk about these conversations, like, okay, how can you get better, faster, stronger, harder, more warrior, like all this kind of stuff. And then we kind of took this turn because we both got terminated during COVID about at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was like, whoa. So we had this change in trajectory. Shift, yeah. And we kind of started this path of like kind of rediscovering ourselves a little bit outside of that capacity, right?
Can I ask one question on that real quick?
Of course.
In that realm there, were you like identified as a cop? I'm a cop. This is what I do. This is my whole thing.
Dude, so in the police academy, they tell you, there's a lot of instructors that'll come and say, like, do not identify yourself as the badge.
Yeah.
And being, a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 21, I was 22 when I went to the academy, 22-year-old kid, I was like, that'll never be me.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, once I lost that job, I realized that, oh, crap, that was a huge part of my identity, actually. Mm-hmm. It had grown into that over the course of 8 years or whatever. I think I was actually only on the road for 7 years. And then on the back half, when I was like, I got suspended and stuff during COVID and all that, and then all that stuff kind of played out. But I had realized, like, oh man, I had taken on a lot of that stuff and identified with it.
Yeah, so that routine and ritual became you.
Yeah, totally.
Routine and ritual.
But it wasn't like this explicit thought that I was like, oh yeah, I am this. It was like, it was
culture.
I was seeing it in my behavior. I'm like, where am I getting this? It's like, oh, it's that. Why am I prioritizing these things? Oh, it's that.
Yeah.
Like, why am I prioritizing being tough and hard and stoic and not expressing myself and having to stay like, when my wife is trying to have, a conversation or an argument, I'm just like stone faced, dude. And it's because, you're standing in front of guys that are screaming at you all day long or whatever, having these negative interactions. That's the place I want you to feel safe.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so he and I started on that kind of this journey of like kind of rediscovering ourselves outside of those roles.
Yeah.
And we got to this place where it was like we were like softening up, which
thawing out.
If I was back in that place like 4 years in, I was like softening up, dude. Like that's some sissy shit,
right?
Like that's how I would have thought about it. And
tracking that mentally.
Oh my gosh, dude. But now it's like, it's such a blessing because I know how many guys are still stuck in that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he did this men's group because his whole thing, I won't give you like the whole synopsis on it, but it was, we all got there and we started off with jiu-jitsu and he was like, this is a day that like we want to connect as men in a way that's not like, rough and tumble, hey, we're a bunch of roughnecks, hard MFers out here, but in a way that we can get to a place where we're able to look at a guy that, that we care about and able to say, I love you, or like give him a hug or, grab onto his shoulders and this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so, man, I can't even remember how I started off on this tangent, but that was the intention of the outing, right? So it started off at like 5 a.m. We all set all that stuff up and then went out there and had like journaling time and the somatic breath work, which we'll get into in a little bit here. Love. But yeah, and it was like, holy crap, dude, the answer actually is love. Like, well, who'd have thunk it? Right?
Yeah.
Christ, first of all, would have told us all. Right? Yeah. He was like, one of the things we talked about, because I mean, a lot of the stuff that what we got terminated over was political in nature, right? So, and it was. I
mean, COVID was correct me if I'm wrong, but during COVID was the whole time that there was a big spin to defund the police.
Yep.
And you also had the morals of, do you want to go ahead and get a vaccine against your will or not against your will or whatnot. So
it was us against them, right? It was my team, your team, in a lot of different capacities.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
And you couldn't hide from it in a lot of ways.
And Greg was like, if I'm going to share this story and he would be okay with me sharing this. So because I think this is a perfect characterization. Like I said, he was a Army Ranger, was a contractor over in the Middle East, and he said he was walking through the airport and he walked past these Iraqis.
Yeah.
And his first inclination was like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
And he had to check himself. And and he was sharing in that, if me and those guys were to go out and have coffee, we'd probably have an awesome time and we'd be polite, right?
Yeah, the human nature.
Yeah, so it broke down to this thing of like, dude, jujitsu, right? Everyone talks about jujitsu as being this place where, like, oh, the cop comes in and the guy, the criminal, right? Yeah, exactly. So all these guys will come in, and it's kind of like that's the environment. And so his goal was like, we need to start developing ourselves and like bringing other guys in a way that we are okay with interacting and remembering that we're all having this human experience, and we're all supposed to. How powerful, dude, right? And if you were to ask me that, like I said, 6 years ago, I would have been like,
"You're gay."
Yeah, dude. No bullshit. No. He was like, he spelled all this out, and he's like, and it's not gay. And then he's like, and even if you are gay, I'm happy to have you here, kind of a thing. It was just like a group of 10 guys or whatever. But dude, there was a guy who'd been a pastor for 25 years.
Wow.
Business people, laborers like myself.
Real men's retreat.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. Like a full-blown pagan, like does pagan rituals and like plant medicine stuff on his property and this kind of stuff. It was just this spread of guys that if you were to write it down on paper, like how could these guys all be there? And we were just loving on each other the whole time. Dude, the whole day ended at 11 o'clock at night around a fire, us holding hands and meditating on love and trying to
right.
That was like the closer of it. Isn't that crazy?
That's beautiful.
Isn't that crazy?
It is though.
Yeah.
Because in so many capacities, a lot of today's age might look at that and have some real harsh things to say. For
sure, dude.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I think that's their self alienation.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then that's that self shame. And that just runs into what I feel like we're going to jump into with that inner dialogue.
Yes. And so all that to say that, I'm in this place now where I recognize the value in softening is a weird word to use, but I think that's kind of what it is. It was like a softening of the heart, right? There's something in scripture that talks about Christ will take, or God will take your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh, right? And I think that's kind of what I've been experiencing over the past year or so. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like we felt powerful being a stone, keeping everything pushed away,
yes,
so that we could deal with it.
Yes.
But we were dealing with it already.
Yep.
We just were choosing not to interact.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Now, when you add the vulnerability, right, and you recognize that emotion is actually the spice of life, it's the thing that makes it, wow, this is really rich. Yep. This is something that I can really palate. And if you don't operate in the emotionality, right, you get to choose and dictate. So at first it was no emotionality, and maybe even before no emotionality, it was over emotionality, right?
Yes.
We were too focused, maybe being in our feelings, than dealing with the tangibles, that the A, B, C, D.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And I believe that as men that are truly trying to evolve for the better, trying to more develop themselves and understanding themselves and how they affect their surroundings, as creators, as head of households, as what do you call them, as like chaperones of the standard of society.
I've never heard that, but I like that.
Right? It's like
chaperones of the standards of society. That's very poignant. Go
Appreciate
ahead.
That.
Yeah, sorry. Keep going.
No, totally. If we're gonna step into that role, you have to have a level of, I'm not interacting with the things that I really didn't interact with, like I didn't cause or choose to, but I'm gonna be a space for them to play out. Now you're safe.
Yeah.
And now when you're safe, there's a connection, because no one wants to hear like advice from someone that isn't invested.
Sure.
Or isn't a part of, or feel like understood.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I knew that this episode was going to turn into this. But okay, so we're 15 minutes in. This is going to go at least an hour and a half, if not 2. And the only other person I've given the privilege of 2 hours is Matt. And
I love Matt.
Matt's a good dude, man.
Solid man.
Yeah, but the reason that we tend to go that long is because the conversations end up turning into something like this, which is like, I can't, like, I think it's so important for people. For people in general, but especially like I'm coming from a male perspective, right? So especially men to hear this stuff, like, because I didn't hear it for so long.
Gives permission.
Yes, permission's a good
Again,
word.
Stewards of society.
Yeah,
we have to. We're the chaperones. We're the
Yes.
ones that allow.
Yes.
So, at first it was that's gay.
Yeah.
Dude. Smear the queer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That toxic part of society that wasn't acceptance.
Sure.
Right? What was the fear of it? Misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So
misunderstanding is precisely right, dude.
Right.
Okay, before we get too deep,
give me something.
I don't know your story of how you got into jiu-jitsu. I've known you for a number of years now. I think I've been with Chris for dude, it's got to be almost 3 years.
Yeah. I've been at the gym now 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to say almost 3 years, but I've never heard your story. I feel like I know a lot of the guys. Well, maybe not. Now that I think about it, not that many guys. I don't know a lot of their stories about how they found jiu-jitsu. But I always find it fascinating.
Right.
Like, I've shared my story about how I got into jiu-jitsu a number of times on these episodes, but I really do want to hear about like how you found martial arts and jiu-jitsu.
So, like, I think it all started, honestly, with the UFC and watching Chuck Liddell personally.
Dude, Chuck Liddell was my number one.
Right? He was my first.
Yes.
And then I saw Matt Hughes.
Really?
Yo, bro, and he would just destroy people.
Yeah.
He was just a tank. He would destroy people. And then BJ Penn, Matt Hughes match.
Yep.
And I was like, who's this BJ Penn guy?
Yeah.
Why are they calling him Prodigy? And what is this? And then I was like, I've always been a super competitive person.
Sure. Oh yeah, nobody's surprised by that. Just so you know, any of the guys that are listening right now, nobody's surprised by that.
God, and I don't even mean to be, right? I'm really just trying to compete against myself.
Sure.
But it's just it's my nature.
Sure.
So BJ Penn got his black belt in like 6 years.
Dude, I think it was like faster. 3.
Right? Oh,
I'm almost positive it was 3.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Yeah, the Prodigy, man. Yeah. He won what is it, oh, dude, I'm just going to make up a word, like the Dune Moyals or something.
That's definitely made up.
It's made up, but it's something like that. It's
Someone,
something,
of course, correct in the chat.
Oh, dude, I told you, people will correct me in the chat. Like, I have never gotten more hate than I did when I got a podcast.
Hate's good PR.
Dude.
Hate
like,
me to love me. We love Kanye
crap.
2000.
And at first I was like, I'm just going to delete all the hate comments.
No,
leave them. You can't keep up, first of all. And then
the internet is undefeated.
Dude, yeah, I started putting out a bunch of reels and stuff, but it's like, I just can't do this anymore. But
like
anyway,
like
okay, so you found BJ Penn.
Right, BJ Penn, and the competitiveness is like, how do you, in my head, it's like, I'm a very, like, mentally visual person, so it's like, how do I put together a perfect fighter if I was gonna be the perfect fighter? And I mean, I think it was like meant to be for us because we had Power Rangers,
dude. Have you listened to any episodes?
A couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you listen to my talk about the Power Rangers?
I have not.
Okay. Well,
fuck.
Well,
we'll go back.
One of me and Cody's episodes where I told him like martial arts. The reason, like one of the reasons,
the Red Ranger
was freaking Power Rangers, dude. Yeah.
Fucking beat up them putties. Yeah. Fuck you, Rita.
Anyway, keep going, dude.
Going on. So I was putting together in my head, and I'm probably like 13, 14, maybe. Hard to remember the age, really. But I just remember, I was like, it was easy. BJJ, because it goes to ground, and Muay Thai. And then you do those, maybe a little bit of Philly shell. And I was thinking to myself, that's the perfect fighter. Yeah. Lo and behold, it's really wrestling.
Sure.
Fucking Khabib.
Yeah. Who'd have thunk?
Dagestan, leave him there.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
Right? But, yeah, so then fast forward, and I go to a couple of gyms, and I'm not really, I'm not in a place in life to really take up martial arts.
Okay.
It finds me, right? Shout out to KCS, Kids at Combat Sports. Full Circle Gym back in the day.
Full Circle,
bro.
Did you know Jeremiah Perry?
Yeah, I know Jeremiah Perry.
Serious?
He just started his amateur, right?
What the heck, dude?
Right?
Yeah. Well, he's had a few fights.
Oh, really?
I think it was his first MMA fight.
Okay.
Recently.
He used to do kickboxing or something.
Yeah, he Muay Thai. So when this was
with Westside Muay Thai or with
no, I
KCS,
think he was still with Full Circle at the time.
Okay.
But he took a Muay Thai fight. It was so ridiculous, like. Because growing up, I wasn't actually training. Like, I was training a little bit, but nothing I wasn't not like a regular like I am now.
Yeah.
And
the consistency.
I remember this kid named Logan Hoagie was like, you should go like trying to get like start not beef necessarily, but on social media between me and Jeremiah.
I was trying to get
and I
clout.
only knew Jeremiah as like this kick-ass drummer because we were playing in we were playing a lot of shows together. He was in a band called Vessels.
Yeah, Vessels.
Dude, that's so crazy. It's really weird that like we have that connection. That was like a really significant time in my life. But yeah, so but then I saw like videos of his fights. It's like, oh, this guy would freaking dog walk me, dude. Like I don't train like that, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's just kind of funny. But again, it just goes back to this idea that like the community of guys into this stuff is so small.
It's so small.
Yeah. So, sorry. Continue.
No worries. So, you know, Rough House, back in the day, Victor Solia.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, but great kickboxer. You know, just shout out to the legends. Over in the kids staff.
Yeah.
But Chris Stone worked in the shipyard.
Yes.
And he was a pro fighter still. And I work in the shipyard, and he's like, man, you should come to my gym.
I don't know.
I love your energy. Okay. Yeah. And so I quit this shipyard, and then I call it my regrowth period.
Yes.
It took about 3 years to get shit together when I realized what was really going on.
Fair enough.
And it was during COVID, and I was like, I need something, God, because I am in a place where I have nothing, and I'm not doing any good for myself. And he's like, I hit Chris up on, he's like, hey man, you mind if I come to the gym and check it out? He's like, I would love it.
Love that.
God, Chris is like the greatest advocate for jiu-jitsu.
Totally.
He is the type of person that should have a gym.
Yep.
Shout out to the coaches that actually save people's lives.
Yep.
Jiu-jitsu saved my life.
Yep.
So in 2019, 2020, 2021.
Yes. 22. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the end of 20 into 21, February 2021. Christine, yes, was coaching because Chris was in Brazil.
Okay.
And he said, yeah, just go to the gym, bro, don't worry. And so for the first 3 months, I would show up 6 to 7 days a week, getting my shit together because I didn't have anything.
Yep.
And I fell in love with jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
It was a place where I could literally be physical and hug, and I'm a very physical person. I physical touch is my thing, is my love language. It's how I communicate my highest welcome into my world.
Totally. And
I think that's what really made jiu-jitsu for me.
Yeah. You know, what was it like when you first like went in there?
Oh, bro, I was a spastastic, bro.
Listen,
bro,
I figured that.
Fuck, bro. Look at. They got me in an ankle lock, and they're worried that I'm gonna break my shit.
Yeah, dude. So were you like? Were people giving you the business, or because you're also really athletic and strong?
Yeah. People are fucking me up, bro.
Okay.
Bro, what is shoulder pressure? What is like?
That's
bottom control.
Yeah.
What is like? And bro, I don't have cardio.
Yeah.
Bro, you know what I'm like without cardio? I'm a turtle on his fucking back, bro.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Horrible.
So you went in there and you had this guy, a very similar experience to what most people have as far as like, dude, I'm getting dog walked. What the hell is this?
What is this? You mean I get to do this shit? Eddie Bravo wasn't lying, man, when he does that bullshit ass quote.
Dude. Dude, that's exactly right, though.
But it is right, because I'm going to I'm super competitive.
Yes.
So I'm never going to quit on myself.
Sure.
And then it's like, this is going to happen in real life to me. If these motherfuckers, these geek-looking motherfuckers.
I know, dude.
This overweight man.
I know.
Oh, God, bro. Hand it to them all.
Man, that's so you started strict jiu-jitsu. Were you doing kickboxing at that time as well?
I was doing his whole program.
You were?
Yeah.
So the bug got you, like, pretty quick, is what it sounds like.
It's like I was so sick of where I was at.
Gotcha.
That the bug was the only thing I could catch.
That's interesting.
Right?
I think that's a similar story for a lot of people.
It's either you're motivated by the dream, which usually takes a happy-go place of stability and like love and support, or you're motivated by the nightmare and you're in the gutter and you got to get out. I'm a Fafella boy.
Yeah, dude. Like when I really dove like really deep into jiu-jitsu, it was around that time where I'd lost my job. I had nothing better to do. Like I lost my job, dude. I was getting paid full wages for like 2 years. So I was getting paid to train.
This
more or less.
motherfucker.
I know, dude. Your tax dollars hard at work, baby.
Pay the man. Fuck the taxes.
But it was the same thing. Like I felt almost aimless in where my life was. I didn't have any no stability at all.
No compass. No
Nothing,
North Star,
dude.
bro.
Nothing.
Yo, how was your faith during that time too?
Oh my gosh. Well, honestly, that's where I think that's where I found my faith. Oddly enough. Right? Like where else do you turn when you have nothing else to turn toward, right? Yeah,
exactly. That cross that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta bear.
Yeah. No, precisely. And so it was kind of a similar experience where it was like I was training in there, like you're saying, 6-7 days a week, sometimes doubling up on days, that kind of thing.
Oh,
I had nowhere else to be, that kind of thing, you know? And
that shit gets crazy though, does it not?
It does.
Like
I remember the first time I took a week off where you realize like, oh, my body's way more broke down than I thought. Big time. Like oh,
can't take too much over because you get depressed.
Yeah, dude. It's a fascinating thing. Yeah. And I'm like, I obviously like clearly I ended up over at Gig Harbor MMA, like, and thank God for that because Chris Stone is just.
He's such a saint, bro.
You couldn't ask for a better coach. But
just laid back,
dude. The first time I came to Gig Harbor MMA, got the boots put to me after training for months, and so I was like,
"Oh, I remember when you came,
dude." I was
whooping your pretty boy ass. I wanted it,
dude. I was like, I don't think I belong here. I just can't like hang.
It's just like you were a blue belt before me.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, I was so upset. I was so upset. I was like, first of all, he got a blue belt before me,
I came
and
in as
you
a
came.
Blue belt.
Yeah, you came from another gym.
Yeah, I came from another gym.
Yeah.
So, but I was not used to like that. Level of intensity and the amount of dogs that we had.
Yeah, grinders. Matt was still there, was he not?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, first of all, he was the villain for me.
Yep.
Right? Everyone used to be like, how'd you roll with Matt?
Yeah.
And so then, yeah.
Yeah, it's it's definitely a fascinating thing. But the highest, so Greg Anderson is like one of the most savage dudes that I know. Like bar none, he's just that guy.
That sounds so sick.
And I was telling him, I was like, dude, sometimes I feel like I'm just, because, I'm going to do like this seminar at a karate studio and all this kind of thing where I'm like, and I was telling him, I was like, dude, I just don't feel like what do I have to give, dude? And he was like, dude, you're a Chris Stone purple belt. You got a purple belt from a gym where guys are known to be dogs. Like,
we don't know our own reputation.
Totally.
And similarly, at the beginning of this, you're like, you don't know this, so I'm happy to say this, right? Bro, you're a hard roll.
Dude, I appreciate that.
Fuck you.
I don't feel it most times.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
we went to our last dog match together.
Okay, dude.
How was that? That was
man,
rough, bro. It was a barn burner.
Yeah, those kind of rounds are so interesting to me because, like, I'm trying to develop a better top game. Obviously, you've helped me a lot with that, but
and I'm trying to get my guard.
You really start to. Right, when you have those kind of rounds and you're keeping up, then you have those moments you're like, okay, actually, I am getting pretty good at this. Yeah. Those kind of moments. But like you said, like when that kind of gym is your home, that's what everything is relative to that.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like,
it's our environment.
And
that's why when you be bouncing around these gyms, I'm like, yes, I want to get a group of guys together to do that. Mainly because it just gives you better experience.
Totally.
New faces, they're going to treat you not as sweet as home.
Yep. Totally.
I mean, and we don't really treat each other sweet at home.
Yeah,
anyways.
dude, I know. And so, Greg said that to me, and like that was really meaningful for me. And he said he had such high remarks for Chris and stuff, which of course warms my heart because Chris deserves all the love in the world.
He really does. He's such a crazy good belt.
Yeah, so good. So
simple too, fundamental.
I know. Yeah,
simple,
his jiu-jitsu is
game.
very fundamental.
Very São Paulo, Brazil.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
So good.
Okay. Love you, Chris.
But yes. Okay, so you found jiu-jitsu. Was there ever a point where you wanted to quit and walk away from it?
No. What ended up actually, funny enough, because I was doing MMA as well, right? I was having my fights.
Yep.
I think I've had 3 fights under Chris Stone.
Yep.
I think I've won 2 out of the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Chris Stone again for being
buddy.
such a great coach. But after my last fight, I was like, I'm too old for this shit.
Really?
And it's not even too old, but it's like there is an anxiety that comes with striking that does not come with jiu-jitsu. And again, just being sensitive to who I am, I recognize that I don't go places where I'm not celebrated, where I can't be this authentic self.
Sure.
And it nurtures that inner person in me that like wants to thrive and be loving and kind. I don't really like having to be poshed up, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And like hard.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you do got to present yourself in certain lights. So when I lost my last fight, you know, part of it was a bow out because I lost because you know what I mean, the ego does not like to lose.
Sure.
And I was like, jiu-jitsu though, and I just triple downed.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is it. This is so fun, so good. Even when I get tapped, I'm like, how did that happen? Like, it's such a cerebral learning environment for me.
Yes.
Outside of like striking. Yeah, it's just a different drum for me. It just speaks to me.
How did jiu-jitsu change like your self-perception?
Man. So, in a lot of ways, like, I wanted to conform myself to jiu-jitsu. It's like, what kind of game did you want? Before, I really thought, like, I said I wanted to be the ocean crashing, and I wanted to be, like, you know, I wanted to take him out to deep water, right? That's the kind of jiu-jitsu I wanted.
Yeah.
And
I love that analogy, by the way, like taking someone to deep water.
Yeah.
Like, I love the image of that.
And to develop that game, like, I had to be, you know, what I am, which is high energy, pressure.
Sure.
And I just crash, and I keep crashing. So the way that manifested though is like the ocean doesn't crash all the time.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And sometimes it's still, but it's still heavy.
Yeah.
And so in that like my life outside of jiu-jitsu, pressure situations are heavy, but they're not. Hard conversations need to be had.
Yes. Yeah.
Keep your frames.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Keep your frames. What are your frames? Those are the principles in which you started the conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't compromise on your values.
Isn't it so funny that like jiu-jitsu can kind of bring out personality in like a big way?
Oh, it brings out confidence.
Yeah.
When you're used to getting crushed.
Yeah.
And you're still accepted. Okay, one.
Yeah. Then
you start building your game, and you're starting to develop a personal sense. It's not anyone else's game.
Yep.
Then you get attaboys from your people.
Yep.
You get your flowers, and you develop self-confidence because you're holding your own.
Yep.
And then, you know, how do you not perform in real life when you have a solid group of support?
You know, I have this, I've told this story again on the podcast, so I'll make it quick, but Zach Stazer had brought me aside after training with you guys for a while, and he was like, you know, you're good, but you have to be meaner to people.
Yeah, I told you something nature.
Yeah, I know. And it really was a reflection of my, right? So one thing about Preston is he'll often be like, I'll say something or apologize, and he'll be like, you people-pleasing son of a bitch.
Bingo.
And it's like, yeah, that's exactly right. So it's like, when I'm on like playing top, like I started to play guard because I'm kind of passive in that way in my day-to-day life, right? So when Zach brought me aside, I was like, you have to be a little bit meaner and like more assertive.
Like, it's just you have to own the position.
Yes. But like I was always, in my brain, I was like, oh, I don't want to be mean to this guy. Like,
but is it mean?
No.
Or is it jiu-jitsu?
It's jiu-jitsu.
Now, when you tap because your knee, what was it? Your knee, knee, was it?
What?
Your knee shielding them. You're from top position. Top pressure.
Like knee on belly?
Knee on belly.
How did you forget that?
I don't know. Yeah, but knee on belly, right? It's like if you tap a blue belt in knee on belly, they need to work on their shrimping and regarding.
Sure.
You're doing them a service.
I know. It took me a long time to learn that, though.
Well, I get that.
Like,
I get
hard
that.
cross. So, the last hate comment I got was like, good boy. Another man had to tell you that it was okay to cross face someone hard. I'm like,
that good boy, he's rejecting. He's rejecting.
Dude, I was like, dang, bro, thanks a lot. I'm acknowledging that. Like, why you gotta be so mean to me? You know?
I acknowledge something in vulnerability. Yeah, another man called me a pussy.
Yeah, I was like, come on, bro.
Hey, let's pause real quick. This is the part where he was self-pleasing.
Oh.
He couldn't make everybody happy and was upset.
Dude, exactly. Yes,
that's why the podcast is good for you.
I know it. It really is,
yeah,
dude.
man.
It really
I'm so
is.
grateful that you're doing this.
And well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But like now that I'm starting to understand that it's like, no, dude, we're just training. Like this is what the environment is supposed to be like. It's like kind of shifted my perspective, and still sometimes it's uncomfortable.
Oh, it's
like. But, once you get training partners where it's like, hey, this stuff is like totally in bounds, like we know what this role is about to be about. That's what I'm saying, bro. It's it changed my perspective on the game, but it also made me do some serious self-reflection on like why I was like that initially. Yeah. And I think that was a really positive thing.
Here, I think how this translates to me personally in a personal experience outside of jiu-jitsu is when you see something wrong and you're the only one maybe presence-wise there for it, do you say something? Now with jiu-jitsu, you may feel more inclined to say something because you're the space that's going to calm the situation.
Sure.
Maybe.
Sure. And the reason I was kind of bringing that question up, because you texted me a few weeks ago asking me, do you ever wear a mask?
Oh, man.
And it was like, jiu-jitsu has a way of like stripping it down, dude. Like, well, initially what that was for me was the first time I got, hey, like, come do jiu-jitsu, is at the police department, a guy named Courtney Muse, and he doesn't listen to this podcast, that son of a bitch, I don't think, but he's a good friend of mine, dude. I always refer to him as like my older brother at the police department. He took good care of me. He showed me how to be a good cop, that kind of stuff.
Cool deal.
And but he was like, just come do jiu-jitsu. And he was always asking people that. Come work out with me, because he was like a dick kicker as far as like he's going to kill people up there with his workouts. And I kept on going back for more, throwing up every time. He just sent me a video of like clips of the times that I had thrown up. And I was like, dude, that's hilarious. And it's good to know. And then I was telling him, like, but hey, dude, I don't do that anymore, kind of a thing.
Yes.
But he brought me up to what was called the penthouse, the big mat room that we had at the police department. And I thought that I was like, I was lifting weights. When I went to the police academy, I was 200 pounds. Weightlifter.
On your fucking frame, bro?
I'm dead serious, bro.
You 200 were pounds. Fucking...
So it was like just constant heavy weightlifting and big amounts of food.
How's your joints?
I mean, they're better now that I've lost the weight, right? So now, like, I walk around probably 172 usually. It's like right around there. But I thought being like big and strong like that, I was like, that's all I need, dude. And then I did jiu-jitsu and got freaking whooped. And I was like, what the heck?
Funny.
Yeah.
It's that experience. And it's humbling.
It's humbling. I thought it was some tough guy, and then it was like, you want to talk about masks, right? I was like, that mask like started to slip a little bit, right? Yeah. Oh man, maybe I'm not the guy I thought I was.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where all that stuff started. I think that's the interesting thing about jiu-jitsu, because there's two ways that it can go. I've talked about this before. Is this idea that like some people go into jiu-jitsu, they experience what you and I experienced, where like, dude, I thought I was like a tough athletic kid, and I'm getting the boots put to me, and you can either choose to like, I'm never doing this again,
fold,
or I'm really gonna lean into this and figure this out. So, I'm very thankful that.
But that's also that. I think that's another thing that we can translate in life. How do people respond to hardship?
Sure.
Do they fold, wash out, and buckle under themselves, take that victim mindset? Do they stick with themselves, understand that maybe it's not right now, but it's going to come?
Yeah.
If they continue the hard work and due diligence.
Yeah.
I really believe in like working without the idea of the payout.
Yeah.
Because that really, it shows you the work in the work ethic.
Yes.
Right? If your work ethic is poor and you're working, it will improve.
Yes.
If you're not looking towards getting done.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like weed eating.
You know
what I mean? It's in the garden bed.
For sure.
And I hate that.
It really is like, it's like,
I hate weed eating.
Cliche. As cliche as it is, it really is the journey and embracing the journey. Oh man,
right? It's the presence of now.
It totally is, dude.
Isn't that wild though?
Yeah. No,
it's so cliche that everyone's like, just be here.
Yeah.
Be here now.
Yeah.
That Ram Dass.
Like, yeah, dude, I know so the somatic guy, that was like one of his teachers, was Ram Dass. Isn't that crazy?
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because all right, so Jesus Christ is king.
Yes.
but there are earthly ways to experience this experience. I believe everyone brings a valid opinion.
Well, he gave us God gave us the capacity to have these experiences.
Exactly.
And like,
I really believe Christ is just a master key.
Yeah.
In which, when you have the master key, you can literally decipher and discern everything else.
I totally agree with that. And so like the somatic breath thing, we're going to start getting into stuff that's a little bit... Some guys are going to listen to this thing as kind of woo-woo stuff, for sure, right?
Hey, be woo-woo until you try it. But if you're not open-minded, then you're just a closed book.
And I was too. I was like, let me say that as well. Like, I was really...
Until you did that fucking flow?
Until I did the flow was a huge deal. Honestly, when I first started meditating was like the first, like, oh, okay. Like, what?
Stillness is really important. Not to... I'm just pausing. Keep going. It's this. The answer is in the boredom. And if you can sit with the problem in mind in pure silence for an hour, the solution will come in mind.
Yep.
Loud as a roar.
Dude. Yeah, it's exactly right. And this, like, jiu-jitsu, I've made all these connections and with people that have led to these really, like, spiritual experiences. And so I went to, like, that men's group. So we did jiu-jitsu. And the reason they did jiu-jitsu first is, like, I thought this was really cool. He's like, because only half the people actually did jiu-jitsu, and the other half, it was like, it's my first time. One guy had like a shirt that had buttons on it, that he was rolled in that, right?
Nice.
Like, if that tells you anything. That's what it was like. So we got there and did that, and he made the rounds nice and short because he wanted everybody to have intimate physical contact with each other before we got the day going.
Pause on that real quick.
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so how do you distinguish just human, right?
Yep.
From stranger to personal no. I'm going to do it on camera real quick.
Yep.
Extend your hand out. Right? Yep, perfect. When you touch someone, you personally know them.
Sure.
This is a personal touch.
Very much so.
Right? So when you touch somebody and you introduce yourself, hi, I'm Preston.
Yes.
You're Aaron.
Yes.
Now I personally know you. I've personally touched you. There's a connection.
Sure.
Right? And it's really that simple if you let it be. Back to that, these Iraqis, like, they're just people. If we were to have coffee and sharing a conversation and get to know their family, and you share food, you share a handshake, it's a personal understanding.
You know what the comments are going to be on this, right? It's like, actually, it's because you used to carry a sword, and if I extend my right hand, you know I'm not going to pull my sword on you.
Oh, you tell me, you medieval genius. You can find me at Chill Vibe.
But that was exactly right. Yeah. That was the way to start the day. That was they had,
you gotta break the mask.
Totally. And like, the guys that had never done jiu-jitsu before, they walked away from that like, whoa, I've never had an experience like that. But we went from that to doing somatic breath work. And the other component to it, so the breath coach was like, so somatic breath work is like, it was that was the term he used, but it was like an old, is yogic the right word? Like old, like yogis. I don't know, but it was like a breathing technique that we did over the course of an hour.
Usually stimulates the vagus.
Yes, and it can induce psychedelic experience, spiritual experience, religious experience, which it did for everybody.
Trauma release usually.
Yeah, trauma, dude. So I'll get to that. So we just spent the first hour and a half, 2 hours, totally just exhausting ourselves physically.
Yes.
So we had that was it, dude. We had nothing left in the tank. We did this breath work.
You can't hold a mask when you have nothing left in the tank.
Dude, that's for 100%. We had, right, that's kind of like the joke about, like, if you want to know if you're really good friends with someone, go on a long-term vacation with them because they can't maintain, like, this persona when things get frustrating and tired forever. Yeah, dude. Yeah. So, but the breath work, it's 10 guys in a room. We're doing this breath work. About, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes in, it was like the circular breathing thing to start out, like, right, this kind of thing. Loud tribal music and stuff. It was really cool. Everybody started, I didn't know this because your eyes are closed and you're laying down on the mats, but like, I started weeping, like, just like sobbing, weeping. And there's this picture that I had shared recently on my Instagram of the instructor coming over to me and holding my hand, putting his hand on my chest. but you're in this mind state that you're almost not there. It's almost like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
And so he felt like this guide, more or less. And my hands are almost extended off the mat, and I thought they were laying on the ground. Like weird stuff like that's happening.
Yeah,
and you're doing these breath holds, right? So you do that kind of breathing for 20 minutes, and then there's this part where you're doing these breath holds, and you feel like you can go forever. You feel like you can hold your breath for 20 minutes if you needed to.
You super oxygenated. Yeah, like the Wim Hof.
Yes.
And
or
so sumo breathing.
When you hold your breath, and then that's that, like you were talking about, that stillness. And that's when like a lot of these images and these weird visions start coming in. It was very powerful. So I was like totally weeping.
Yeah, enlightenment is in between the breath.
Yep.
Right? Not the in.
Yeah.
Not the out, but the pause between.
Yes. And then there was another guy there, Tyler, who, and I remember this pretty vividly, where he's like, help, Adam, help. Right? And he's crying, just
he's
weeping.
Holding on.
Just that image, 10 grown men in a room.
Yeah.
Every one of them
weeping.
Hit this point where they just started weeping. And I had this point where I was weeping, and then I was laughing at a different part, and then I started weeping again. Like, it was really crazy. And you have these, all that. So we finished up. It was an hour long. The exercise was an hour.
Oh, you were drained afterwards.
Dude, we sit up, and we're all like looking at each other like, what the hell was that? And one of my favorite moments was this guy who's a businessman, sales. He's like, I thought all this stuff was absolute BS, like new age woo-woo crap.
Yeah.
I don't know what just happened, but that was the most significant moment of my life. And he was like this old 55-year-old man, right, that sat up and said that. And I'm like, whoa, okay, so we all had this pretty crazy experience. One of the guys there was a pastor for 25 years, and he said that, you know, it was almost like, he said that he was conversing with Christ the whole time. My experience was that, right, you talk about inner child work, like I met myself at 5 years old.
That's probably when you were first abandoned.
Crazy. It was probably one of my first traumatic experiences, of kind of what I pulled away from that. And I was like conversing with this, you know, this 5-year-old version of myself. And we said it was time to share. And I'm like, dude, I do not want to share this. This is going to sound insane. And there was 2 other guys, including that guy, who was like, I met myself as a child. And one of the guys, he was like, his name was Mo, and he's like, he referred to him as Little Mo, which I thought was like hilarious. But he had the same experience, and I was like, oh, this actually is going to be a safe place for me to share this.
Isn't that what's needed for men to have permission?
Totally.
Men give permission,
yes,
and then the space is open.
Yep.
But you got to acknowledge it, and you got to own it.
And so Greg sits up, and he's like, how many of you guys cried? And everyone raised their hands.
And then everyone saw everyone raise their hand.
And then he said, and who feels ashamed or bad about that? And everyone's hands went down. And that's like how the whole day started. So I spent the entire day like thinking about what I had just experienced, because you know, the inner child stuff, again, I know that, and I know what this sounds like being someone on the outside looking in, if you haven't experienced something like this before. But I had this, and this is the best way that I can explain it, or I'll try to explain it, is that I realized that I wasn't, 32-year-old former law enforcement dad, married Aaron as a grown man. I was that 5-year-old little boy, just in an older form. And at some point between those two, like A and B, right, the loss of innocence, these traumatic experiences, all these things. Like, now I was at this place that I didn't particularly like that much. It wasn't a genuine reflection of what I was feeling on the inside.
You didn't feel maybe like you were authentically you didn't authentically choose that route, that path, and that identity.
Sure.
All right, let's play with the game then. You said, there's no way Preston could be that person for 3 years, right? But let's what did it take for me to be there?
Yeah. Well, so that was the other component to it. The times where I was crying, I was getting it was almost like your life flashing before your eyes, like
but reverse.
It was really weird. But so I was seeing these flashes of like these, I'm not going to necessarily call them traumatic experiences, but like the first time my dad yelled at me for making some childish mistake, or the first time my mom was upset, right? We had drug addiction and alcoholism in our family, right? So the first time that I was like, hey, like, what's going on?
This isn't
like,
really my fault, but I have to take the burden.
Yes. And it's 100% it formed me into being this thing where, like, these defense mechanisms that made me feel safe at that time that are no longer serving me
at all,
but are still in place.
Held tangibly in hand like such. This is the white knuckle effect.
Yes.
Right? And then it's like the release of that. And that's the somatic response is the release of that, right?
Yeah, well, that's what they called it clearing.
Right.
Like the first, like, one section was clearing.
But what is the clearing good for? The clearing's good to reestablish relationship.
Yeah.
Now, just because you establish contact doesn't mean the relationship is solidified.
Sure.
Right? This is the action of being vulnerable. How I believe the inner child works out in real life is how we interact with those that we love and those that come in contact with us.
Yeah. You know, so for me, like, one of the things, like, so I had to drive home from there, like, an hour and a half, dude.
Oh, you were pooped.
I was not in a position where I should be driving. No drugs, no alcohol, nothing like that. I was so tired from the day. Dude.
Bro,
we went hiking, all this kind of stuff.
Exhausted.
But I kept on having these moments, like, while I was driving home where I'm gonna refer to it as my inner child because I don't have, like, a better way to
Little
describe
Aaron.
it. Little Aaron, dude. Or it would be like, dude, this is gonna sound again.
Stop saying that because it's not gonna like
it's not gonna sound like that to you because you're you.
Yeah, but you got to remember, you're saying it's gonna sound crazy because you're trying to people please people.
Matt Nelson is listening to this right now. He's like, I'm gonna fucking rip that guy's leg off and take it home with me.
You can have it.
Yeah.
Here you go.
What the hell are they talking about? But so I had these moments where I'm like, I was envisioning little Aaron sitting in the passenger seat. Hey. He's like, dude, we know how to fight. And I was like, yeah, we know how to fight. He's like, dude, that's so cool. And I was like, huh, yeah, that is pretty cool. I was like, dude, we know how to play guitar. Like, do you remember when, Elliot?
Damn, you gave yourself compliments and shit,
dude, it
bro.
was crazy. Like this, this is exactly what it was like. And then you go, don't you remember when you saw Elliot play guitar for the first time and you're like wishing you could do that? And you're way better than that.
Ooh.
Like little stuff like that.
Yeah,
where,
bro. It's personal.
It was so, and even today, dude, like little stuff. Like I went, like telling you, like I went and got Sour Patch Kids from the store, and like, that same part of me was like, dude, we get candy.
Yeah,
like,
but it's like
this is awesome.
When did you forget why you wanted to be an adult, bro?
I know. Yeah,
like,
it's really.
When did you forget like what you were really looking forward to? Right?
Sure.
And then when did you forget that you were the captain of the ship?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know.
You got to trust yourself, right? And I say that, and I mean, I'm still a work in progress.
Sure.
But I really believe that, it really started with, like, not chastising myself for making a simple mistake. I realized that we're human. We ought to make mistakes so that we can improve. And it's like the manner in which you make the mistake and the frequency in which you make the mistake dictates if it's a real valid mistake. You fuck something up once. Cool, it was one time. And you learn from it. Wow, you're exceptional. You fucked it up 3 times. You're average.
Sure. So that was actually another question I was going to ask you because, like, what does your inner voice sound like?
You want me to read it to you?
I did. Dude, well...
I'm naked, baby.
What do you... well, I want to ask you this first.
Yeah. I'm fun and jokey with myself now.
You're in a different place now, though.
Yes, very much so.
Let's go back before jiu-jitsu and
before jiu-jitsu, right? Okay, like I used to berate and it was so bad that it would come out in explosions. Mm-hmm. So like, say you're playing a video game, those people that just freak out and blow up.
Sure.
Yeah. Why is it that important?
Yeah.
It's not about fun anymore. So you're actually identifying with the character.
Yeah.
It's hyper-competitiveness, and it's the attachment of the result.
Was it negative?
Oh, it's always negative when it's no fun.
Yeah.
If you're not having, if the inner if your inner child isn't invested or involved, it's not fun. It's like you're looking for some sort of validation.
Yes. And dude, the reason I'm asking that is because I felt like, so that.
Let's just say I would get so heated at a game of League of Legends when I didn't put the work.
You're a League player?
Oh, bro,
Get
come
out
on.
of my house, dude.
Hold up. Fucking nerd.
No, yeah. I know. People can see my setup right now. Dude, they feel like LED lights and stuff. Like, give me a break.
But like, and it's just like it's attachment to ego first and foremost, because I'm attributing some sort of result to my identity, and so when it didn't perform, I would literally have to run my head under cold water.
Interesting.
Because I'm getting that hot and mad at myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like, what is the sense of that?
Well, dude, I think that like that experience of integrating, I think integrating is a good word, like integrating my inner child into my day to day. And this has only happened on Saturday, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like we're still kind of.
Yeah. Like I said, you're building a relationship.
Yes. But my inner thoughts were so negative.
Oh,
and there was a time, and I don't know if I've shared this in the podcast, but like during cop work where I was like super depressed, suicidal, right? Like this kind of stuff where it was like I never had a good thing to say about myself.
Yeah.
And everyone around me seemed to think that like, dude, Aaron, you're like good dude, good friend, had these nice things to say. And
but you couldn't identify it.
Never.
And you couldn't hold space for it.
Couldn't believe it. Didn't believe it ever.
Now I got a question for you.
I'm listening.
Because the same person is reflected back.
Yes.
Because it took me. I'm 38 years old.
Okay.
It took
old as fuck, dude.
Still fucks. Still fucks
good looking,
up, right? Black don't crack, baby. Black
Not
Jesus.
the drug.
Black Jesus. Yo. No, but I would. Berate isn't an adequate word for the way I would view myself, and it took me 37 years to be like, you're actually a good guy, bro. And I mean that, like, you're like, you go out of your way, you know, you have your quirks, we're all human, you know what I mean? But like, you literally cleaned your bed, bro. So like, you cleaned your garden bed, you have really nice flowers, you have really good fruit, you have really good vegetables. Why are you so like on your ass? And I took a deep breath and I was like, damn, your dad was a real drill sergeant. And damn, you really couldn't perform enough for your mother. But look what you do for you and those that are in your pocket. And pocket is a real whack thing. I call it pasture, right? Sure. I got a garden bed right over here. I got, a big old pasture field with a nice pretty fence. And whoever comes in, like, I vet them at the gate. I'm the first. I'm the last, right? The last gate for who comes into my life and how I allow them. But ultimately, it's like I can extend love to everybody because I'm taken care of personally, right? And it's like 2020 is when I started talking to myself, and it's like you have to reprogram, right? Yes. You said integrate. It's a great word, right? So it's like, how do you integrate with the voice? Well, what you think is what you write. When you're writing, you're thinking. Yeah, you're speaking in your head.
I've heard it described as writing is formalized thought.
Ooh, Jordan Peterson, huh?
Listen, I heard, but yeah, that's exactly where it comes from. Yes.
I love that guy.
You call me out. I said something that was such a good line.
It was such a good line. We gotta give it credit where it is. But it's just like, you get frustrated. I feel like men can agree with this.
Yes.
We are easily frustrated when we're out of routine and ritual.
Yes.
There's no direction. You're just wading in the water.
Yeah.
And in that, I think a good word is you're stuck in your circumstance. Now, when we break circumstance up, it's my favorite thing, is you got, I believe circum is the situation and stance is stuck. Now, how does God get you out of a situation? He tells you to move. He moves you through the situation. So you're no longer stuck in the circumstance and you get to shift your perception. New perception, new outlook, new view, new situation.
Yeah.
So how do you get yourself out of a circumstance? You get frustrated. All right. So if I'm frustrated, what am I frustrated with? Routine and ritual. I keep doing the things I don't want to do and not doing the things I need to do.
Yeah.
So, you get
Paul. I'm gonna call your ass
Yeah,
out.
baby. Yo, cheers to that. Cheers to the St. Paul.
Was that letters to the Corinthians?
Yeah. Oh, is it Corinthians
Romans?
or
Thessalonians?
Thessalonians?
I want to say Corinthians, but I'm not positive about that.
I just listened to the book of Corinthians.
Yeah,
today,
I might be wrong.
It's okay. We'll get there.
It would have been cool if I would have got the book right, though.
That would have been.
Yeah.
Hey,
if I would have got like the verse right too, dude.
One day we'll get there.
One day we'll
get there, man. Well, it's just like 2020 was a big year for me. It was. I think it was a big year.
You have
for
writings
everyone.
there from 2020?
Yeah, I got some writings for 2020. You want to hear some?
I do. And then I want to get back to what you were talking about, letting people into the pasture. I want to talk to you about that.
No doubt.
Because I want to hear some wisdom from you, because I had a realization at this men's retreat. And God bless you, Greg, for putting that stuff together, man. He doesn't listen to my podcast though, because he's like famous now.
Oh God!
But he still invites me to this stuff.
Famous
Dude,
Greg.
He literally texted me. He was like, "Hey, here's this event going on. I really think you should be there." And it was like, I hadn't talked to him in probably 6 months. Like, I freaking love that dude, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's good. Here you go. It's a reflection of what you sowed, right? It's a reflection of the relationships that you made.
Yep.
If you're a dickhead, you're not getting invited places, bro.
Yep.
How long did it take for us to realize that?
Yeah. That's it, right?
Right.
That's it.
What moves me? This is 6/7/21.
Okay.
Roots, plants, mountains, breezes, feeling strong, comfort, body, faith, attention, tying disciplines together, freedom of choice, advocacy. I have this picture of a train and a body, and I'm pointing out myself of where I feel like my weak areas are, my tight areas are.
Interesting.
Real reflective on myself.
Yeah.
Right? It's just stuff like that. It's like I became a student of myself because I wasn't sure who I was.
You know, when we were at Matt's house and I was like gimping around, and you like were explaining like, well, if you have pain here, it's probably this, this, and this, and I'm like, well, why do you know that? And you're like, dude, I have a body, and I wanted to know it.
Yeah, so I touched myself.
Yeah, and it was
in not a weird way.
Yeah. Well,
but you know, stop. Here we go. This is some good stuff here too. It's like, hey, when did it become weird to touch and know what your body feels like?
I just don't think people think about it.
But why not? It's your body.
Yeah,
it's the one thing that you have pure ownership.
Sure.
Is your body.
Yes.
The second main thing you have pure ownership is your mind. Why I say second is because you are influenced by ideas that you didn't trace out.
Sure.
We got this stimulus of everything around. What you watch is a part of your diet.
Yes.
What you read is a part of your diet. What you listen to is a part of your diet. The people you interact with are part of your diet. Their habits will spill onto you.
Yes.
We are a tapestry sewn together by the people that we love.
Yes.
So running on that, like vetting and letting people in.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I became very intentional. It's like happiness is a fleeting moment. Peace is from God. And I'm a firm believer that God won't bless you if you choose some people to bring into your life.
I agree.
Because he can't elevate you to where you need to be.
Sure. You know, so I spoke to that guy Mo that I was talking about, and dude, his story is a trip. He grew up in Iran. And so he was sharing that like every day it was like, this is it. As in like, you know, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old boy, like this is it. Just bombs going off all the time. I was like, this is going to be the day. And then he said, but I remember myself being a freaking happy kid. And yeah, that's an aside, but I thought that was such a beautiful image that he was able to share with us. But what he was, so he's a lawyer, and he was saying,
he made it.
yeah, big time, dude. He was saying like when he meets people, he's on, but he's called like he does the American Express system or something like that, where he's like green card, gold card, black card, like this kind of way.
Okay, yeah.
Who gets intimate access to me? And there's tiers to that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I was telling him,
everybody
like,
gets the handshake.
Yeah, I was telling him that like there's so many times in my like I just feel drained, and there's so many people out there that like.
Can I give you an exercise?
I'm listening.
So this may get you in a fight though, a verbal confrontation.
Yes. Who?
I'll just give you a quick story.
Okay, listen.
So, I was a people pleaser.
Yes.
I got it from my mother.
From my dad, just so.
Sick.
Just to share.
But the next establishment you go, introduce yourself to someone, be personable, right?
Yep.
Introduce yourself. They're in a group. You introduce yourself to one person, you shake their hand. For whatever reason, you don't shake the other person's hand. You just say...
It makes me uncomfortable, just you...
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Go ahead.
And for whatever reason, you say, I just don't feel comfortable shaking your hand.
I would never do that.
Look. And then don't offer an explanation because you owe no one an explanation, right? Now, listen. You may get in a fight.
Yeah.
Because I got in a fight.
Sure. Dude.
But you owe it to yourself to realize that you bring in everything that you don't want and that you do want.
Yeah. Well, so someone had said, remember it's actually Pat McNamara said something like, I don't put myself out there like that. Right?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Where it was, for me, it was like, I was always this is something I kind of realized about myself. It's like I never wanted anyone to be uncomfortable or feel unserved. So I always took it upon myself, thinking that I had to save that person.
You're not Christ.
I know it.
And maybe you should relook at what you think being a Christian truly is.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's where I got my self-serving.
Yes.
I wanted to be the last.
Yes.
Let me be Christ manifest on earth.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is like, I think we muddled his meaning by when you get tired, bear my cross.
Sure.
Bear my cross. Yes. Imitate me. Right? Step into the fullness of the law. Don't lie, cheat, steal, whatnot. Don't covet, don't adultery. But ultimately, you're in that place of rest with Christ, knowing that he did all the work, right? And you're finding yourself, and your burden is really what you're dealing with in your daily, I believe, right? It's like, yes, the world's about to end. The world's been ending since it started.
Sure.
Right? Y2K.
Sure.
Everyone bought bottled water.
Yep.
COVID, everybody bought toilet paper.
Yeah, buddy.
You know what I'm saying?
I did not. I
don't believe him. I don't believe him.
But like you said, like it was, so he gave that analogy of like the card system, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's certain people.
It's a vet.
Right? There's like people like you where it's like, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm just kidding. But it's like.
Black card.
Where, but it's like, this is someone that I want to let into my life, that I want to know my kids, want to know my wife.
Yeah.
Matt, another person like that. Cody, another person like that.
Right.
Matt Nelson's one of those guys I just like, dude, I don't want him around any of my loved ones,
Yeah, see what he did to your ankle? Shit, did he even get paid for that?
No, but so many times it's been like, I've put myself out there in a way where I'm like, I don't really have any interest. I don't feel like this is a relationship that I want to foster or maintain.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I find myself in the middle of it. I'm like, this person thinks that we're really tight.
Yeah, how do you feel
Hey,
about
can you drive
that?
me to the airport? Right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that where I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, when did I...
Because you extended yourself, yeah?
Because I extended myself in a way that made that person think that, like...
Yeah.
But it was, like, if you're doing that with everybody, then who's your close friends and who are your actual loved ones?
I got a caveat for that,
I'm listening.
Right? At what point is serving... Like, cause I like this biblical theme.
Yes.
Going kind of is like, at what point are you being the good Samaritan?
I know it.
So it doesn't really matter.
Sure.
So the labor, I think that idea is a perception thing, a paradigm that you're stuck in. And let me try to alleviate you. We don't have a finite amount of bricks. Other people may have a finite amount of bricks. Another version of that is, you don't have to go hard charging in the role the whole time. A lot of times you're in a safe position and you need to just buy your time and rest a little bit, right? If you're on top pressure and you're giving them shoulder pressure on their neck and they can't shrimp out, you usually should just sit there and cook them a little bit, right? So similarly, you're not gonna... I love
that term too, dude.
Yeah, we cook it. But similarly, you're not running out of bricks. Your life is made of mud.
Yeah.
God is the sunshine in your life. Form the brick. When someone needs a brick, you hand that shit out because you're available for it.
Mm.
You're never like physical tired is a personal weakness in mind. We really aren't as tired as we really ought to be.
Mm.
Old school Bible, when they were rebuilding the temple, they used to do 12-hour plus shifts, and they got the time frame in the book. You read it.
Yeah, read the book.
Read the book.
Read the good book.
But ultimately, they would stand guard all night, and then rest for like a couple hours, and then they would work on the temple. So that's not a lot of rest. But ultimately, the temple got built, the people flourished. So we aren't used to that work. That's the work we strive to be ready for. So ultimately, what I mean by that is this: your personal relationships and how you dictate them. Well, the fact is that no one's gonna get as close as your wife.
Yep.
You lay next to her. When she breathes wrong, you know something's wrong with her. How intimately are you serving and getting to know her? Right. I look at, and this is a little sick, I think, but I look at people like video games originally.
Okay.
And I wanna 100% clear it. So I want to get to know everything about them.
Yeah.
And when they're my people and they're in that pasture, it's my due diligence to know my sheep by their name, to love them and model and share with them in what they got going on and what I got going on, right? And it's like the stronger man you are, the more taking care of your purpose, like on top of your shit you are, the more you'll have personal bricks to give. Because I really do believe that sometimes, you have well-crafted, right? Card system, whatever. And you got, just leftovers. And when you're passing by someone and they're just like, you just pulled, you're like, yeah, here's a brick, bro.
Yeah.
And people aren't used to that, so they will value you more.
Sure.
And so why would you take that light from the world just because you personally didn't feel as close and attached?
Yeah.
It's just recognizing that you're a good person and you're a serving person. That's not a bad thing. But the boundary is that you don't have to say yes.
Yeah. See, the boundary is another thing that I was kind of thinking about when you're talking about the idea of a pasture, right?
That's exactly what it is. It's a boundary.
Having those kind of boundaries, because the reason the conversation came up was because I was telling people, like, sometimes it makes me feel exhausted, where it's like, okay,
but what's the exhaustion?
Here you go.
But what's the exhaustion really?
What is the exhaustion really? I think this is going to sound pretty harsh, maybe?
It's going on the internet.
It's going on the internet forever, dude.
Kurt.
So whatever.
Yeah.
It comes from a place of, and what is the exhaustion? I think it's of feeling obligated to maintain relationships or maintain some type of service that I don't really have much interest in maintaining.
Right. So you feel like you're not getting anything out of it. That's what I hear. Yeah,
I know you hear that. I don't really want to get anything out of it. I just wish I just don't want to have to put any more into it. Like, it's not necessarily that I wish I was getting something out of this relationship. It's like, I just, like, it's not.
You get the same feeling sometimes when your kid is hungry and it's the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's true.
So literally, people.
You know how I deal with that, dude? Go to bed.
No cookies for you. But for real though, like that's a normal response to serving.
Sure.
If everyone was called to serve, we would have a different world.
Yeah.
Now, you think Christ really said? Stop that right there. It's the wrong way I said that. Do you think Christ meant don't walk 2 miles? He said if they ask you to walk a mile, walk two. Now, I'm exhausted at a mile, and I'm carrying luggage.
Yeah.
Now I got to carry 2 miles.
Sure.
It's just what it really is. It's breaking the human part of it. It's just another aspect of discipline.
Sure.
It's just another facet of being a man.
Well, maybe it is the boundary thing might be the key thing here, because the other
you don't feel like a choice.
Well, the other component to it is that, like, I love human beings and I love
you love God's creation.
Odd people, right? Like,
weirdo.
Sam used to talk, like, crack jokes about this, right? Or like Courtney Muse, he had messaged me one time. Like I was sitting at a table with a bunch of cops that are like the freaking Island of Misfit Toys kind of cops, just like weird personalities.
Okay.
Those are my people. Those are the people I like being around. Because it's like when you're like that, like it doesn't seem like there's that mask there. Like
it's this authenticity. I mean? Yeah. I think it's what drew you to me.
Yeah, I agree totally. And it was like the same thing with Cody, right? Like
and the reason why, guys, I'm telling you, like, you guys, you know what I'm saying? This
dude,
ain't average.
You know, people that are like, do you know Preston is like the guy with the hair?
Yeah. Someone's like Kano? Yeah. Kano from Mortal Kombat?
Dude, that's hilarious.
Bruh.
Yeah. But no, maybe it is kind of like a boundary thing where there's a time where it's appropriate to say no.
Can
like
we go back to that exercise?
People pleasing thing, right?
Can we go back to that exercise?
I get you. I hear what you're saying.
I'm saying you need to say no.
Sure.
No is the most powerful word in our. You know
language. What I do?
What do you do?
I say no. And then I give a justification for my no.
Why do you need a justification?
I don't.
Who are you explaining to?
Listen, dude. Cognitively, I know that, but like.
Oh, so you're running on emotions?
Yeah, clearly, but like, so like people, it could be someone I've known for 20 years. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make that happen because this, and this.
Well, if you're known 20 years, sure, why not?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Because there's certain people that I do feel comfortable with. I would say there's very few people that I feel comfortable with. Like, dude, I'm burnt out. Like, I just can't do it right now. But I do have this inclination to want to have some type of good reason. And I don't know if that's more for them or more for me, where it's like, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. Or if it's like... You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let me just take you back to middle school.
Okay.
Can I go to the bathroom, please?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to ask to go to the bathroom.
Sure.
Right.
I'm gonna go right in my freaking desk. Miss Olsen, freaking
bitch. Man, I watched this kid get in trouble. They used to have like step 4.
Oh yeah, dude. We had the step system.
Yeah. This kid was wanking it back there in step 3. You gotta go. Yeah. Science class is over, boys.
Oh, dude.
Mr. Allen, I'm sorry you had to see that.
Yeah, that's no good at all.
Oh man,
that's no good at all.
All
but yeah, I think that's. Yeah, because you're right. Like you don't owe anybody that explanation.
No.
On the backside of that, like
bro,
you're just like, hey, no, you can't
fuck around and have fun with that, bro.
Yeah.
Look at when you start again, the inner kid is the way. You start having fun with this stuff. When you get too hard up on yourself, because ritual and routine are brilliant. They are necessary and they are needed. I think there are certain levels of men that can go hardcore, like Jocko, like David Goggins, right? Yeah. That's I wish I could get that to that level. I think I would be a different animal.
Sure.
Right? Ultimately, I'm a soft human. I'm a soft human that had to grow up in hardship that made him hard. And because of that, I got really great benefits of like mettle, METTLE. Right? Strong mental fortitude. And I think that translates in jiu-jitsu brilliantly because you're either the hammer or you're the nail.
Sure.
And sometimes in the match, you are both. So you got to will yourself through it sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, that's been the big, I've been very cognizant of that lately. And you've certainly been a part of that. As far as like, it's so funny because like you, right, the whole like, oh, you're right, dude, you people pleasing bitch. It comes up often enough, and it's like, damn, dude, I wish that I had a comeback, but it's all I can think is like, yeah, I know, dude.
You smiley face that shit. I'm like, I love you.
Yeah,
man.
It's like, yes, that's exactly right, dude.
But hey, finish the fucking preface because now I sound just like an asshole. I'm like, I'm sitting here saying, I'm saying this because I love you, bro.
No, dude, but like, that is one component, dude. So like, my dad used to be kind of like that. He used to drive my mom nuts, you know.
Well, it's just, this is what I've recognized, human psychology, right?
Yep.
If you continually offer an apology, you are continually sought at as the one that's wrong. And that may not always be the case, and it doesn't always have to be the case. But when it's frivolous apology, it makes it the case. It makes it someone to just drop it on, in my personal belief.
Yeah.
I think when you take accountability, there's a different thing here. Hey, I do apologize for the way I interacted in that.
Sure.
That I didn't want to I personally didn't want to come across in that way. This is my directive and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that's more akin to being proper, right? Like, sorry, P. I overbooked the day. That's cool. I understand that. We had plans.
Sure.
Right? Sorry, P. I'm like, I didn't get you the address. I'm like, I should just send the address.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's an actual interaction me and Preston both had.
Oh, I carry receipts.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that like I have to.
It's a mask.
Yeah. It's certainly.
But it's a mask you developed as a child,
Yeah,
so it became a habit,
Yes.
and then the habit became secondhand.
Yeah.
Now, what do we know about habits? They're hard to remove.
Sure.
And they're world pathways.
Yeah, but they can be removed. Is the other
yes.
component to that, right? Like
exactly.
So for
Becoming
me,
aware.
it's like all this stuff is a practice, and so it's like
the journey,
dude. I've been like going through and I'm trying to find these opportunities to be more like that now.
Mm-hmm.
And where I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't think I really want to do this or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like, as that child comes out where I'm like, oh, please don't be mad at me. Like that feeling comes up.
And the more you interact, right, more you pull little Aaron on the side, and he's like, oh, we got candy, boy.
Yeah.
It's like, before I do anything, I reward myself.
Yeah.
And I know dopaminegenically is not right. I listen to you, Huberman.
Yeah.
I listen to you, bro. I ain't got my red glasses yet, but I listen. I get my sunlight.
Yeah.
But before I do anything, I give myself a little treat. I told you a little earlier, like, how do I know, like, when I'm doing well financially? I get myself juices and stuff like that. It's my little niche. But the inner kid in me is always willing to do the work. It's just like, he's always willing to be like, hey, Dad, can I help? And I love that. Because it's like, that's what connects me to jiu-jitsu. I'm a child in there. I'm a fucking kid.
Yeah.
I am like joking around, ha ha ha. But I recognize that I get to be, a mean kid, top pressure if I have to be, right? It's just, I don't know. I think men would do a lot better at giving themselves a little mercy. If you have kids, a great framework is to listen to the way you talk to yourself and say, would you ever talk to your kid that way? Would you ever talk to your mother that way? Would you ever talk to someone you care about that way? It seems like cliche, but it's like, why would you speak to yourself? Because what I realize and what I recognize is the way I treat me is the way I advocate and treat everyone else.
Yeah.
Because you can't fake that funk.
It's like anyone who's listening to this, I would say this idea of like interacting with your inner child, like just a practical thing. Next time you're doing something like participating in a hobby that you love, or even at work, just like imagine what your childhood version of yourself would be saying to you.
Right. And I got a little exercise that I would offer. So I started this practice around 2020. So it says 2/24, 2020. It says, today, I flinch at reading my old thoughts. This is self-judgment. Reading my journal, sharing my thoughts. And then I go into talking to my person. I'm talking to my inner me. I say, my dearest love, please don't fear your old thoughts, but you must shed light on your old headspace to be it's hard to read these ratings. Yeah. I need to get better at writing chicken scratch. Yeah. To be your future. Oh, something about your future steps. So learn to love the exposure today, my love. Expose some thoughts you normally suppress. Enrich the feeling. Reflect after the interaction. Rinse and repeat. Love you. Brilliant. Smart. Kind. Benevolent. King. Yeah. I am glad I have you too. Work with Preston. I'm glad I have you to work with, Preston. And then, you know what I mean? Right after that, I know it's not in the same, but it's just like, 1, send a love note to myself. 2, practice giving the kindness written in the love letter. My dearest love, it is very nice to write you again. It has been some time since we've written each other, but I can say I'm excited to share my overwhelming gratitude. You're such a sunbeam. Preston, I love how lighthearted you are. I love how considerate you are. The space you're in, how observant you are, and how kind you are. Extend your personal comfort to those around you. And that's like how you can continue to manifest it. You give yourself permission, right? If we're going to advocate for ourselves, we have to advocate properly. After you realize that the kindness that you give to yourself, you can offer suggestions. So the suggestions are, sing out loud. I love when you feel happy. Sing till you can't stop smiling. Take some happy walks. Find some jokes that make you laugh. I love you, man. Grow other qualities. 1, wake up within 5 minutes of your alarm. 2, 30 to 60 seconds cold water. A healthy heart. 3, drink more water. 4, write in this more. Our conversations are therapeutic. Let's rebuild our relationship. 5, space from people negatively impacting your goals. Learn boundaries. Right? With love, stretch to see yourself wrong. Being wrong is the first step to being right. Learning with humility what was wrong. Research, adapt, come back to it. You're quite the learner. So, I mean, it's just stuff.
We have about 5 minutes left.
All right. What do you want to end on 5 on?
I want to ask you if the childhood version of you was sitting right next to you.
Yeah.
What do you think he'd say to you?
I'm so proud of the man you are. Thank you for protecting me and keeping me safe.
You know, I was going to say something very similar to that.
Isn't it beautiful to be the man that you needed growing up?
Yeah, it is.
Hey.
Oh, man, my phone's up here, but that thing you sent me today where it's
yeah. I'll
read it out. Yeah, bring it up and read it real quick.
Yeah.
This will be what we're going to close on.
I love that.
And, you know, a couple people from the gym had messaged me and said, like, this is incredible. And I was like, yeah, well, Preston sent it to me, so I can't take credit for it, but it is pretty cool.
It was great.
It is pretty cool. But that's exactly, it was exactly right.
Right, though?
It was exactly right. You know, because I was thinking the same thing, like I was talking about earlier, where it was like, you know, he'd be sitting here thinking like, dude, the things you've done are pretty cool.
Right?
Pretty cool. Go ahead and read it, dude.
All right, here it is. You've grown into someone who would have protected you as a child, and that's the most powerful decision you've made.
Doesn't get much better than that, dude.
It doesn't, brother. Thank you so much for having me, Aaron.
Yeah, brother.
It was a pleasure.
So we close this out the same way every time.
How do we close it out?
So I give our tagline, and then we end it with an os. Okay.
All right, get it.
Everyone's been really cool except for Big Nate. Big Nate was like, "Are you serious?" Kind of a deal, dude. Like, what the hell's
Hey, Nate. Yeah, I still won't focus.
But that's how we close it, man.
All right, let's close it up.
So my closing tag. Well, first I gotta like pitch my. Okay, so we have an Instagram for the podcast, right?
Check it out.
Right? The Grappler's Dilemma Instagram. Also, the Grappler's Dilemma on TikTok.
And?
Where I'm sharing a bunch of like footage on there, dude.
All right, check out the TikTok and the YouTube, correct?
Yeah, and we got a YouTube, dude. The Grappler's Dilemma.
Don't be a pansy.
Dude, it's all the video stuff. Don't you want to see our facial expressions? I mean, like, so much of communication is body language.
You got to look at my new hairdo.
And look at Preston's new hairdo, dude.
Check me out. Check me out.
And if you want to email us, the Grappler's Dilemma podcast at gmail.com. I actually got an email recently. Nobody uses that freaking email except for one random guy who was like, I would love to come on your podcast and talk about whatever. He's a jiu-jitsu guy.
Nice.
And I don't know how I feel about that yet.
Sniff him out.
Like, yeah, I know. I got to like kind of like peep his social media and stuff to see if he's a weirdo or not. But
we like him.
Anyway, thank you guys for listening to episode 20. Huge milestone. I'm happy to have shared it with you, Preston.
Baby.
That's a beautiful thing.
When do we say oos?
Train hard. Stay safe.
Oos.